Hey there, America. It's Heidi coming to you quasi-live from Perth, Western Australia. And the very first video blog that I want to share with you is something that I lovingly call the Jenna Brookes Defense. Now, the Jenna Brookes Defense is not a defense that you're going to find in a textbook or a case, so don't go looking for it. It's something that I learned a couple of years into practice, so probably 2005, 2006, based on a felony trial that I did with a client named Jenna Brookes. Now, I would have shared this with you guys years ago if I could have. But when I was a lawyer, there was different rules, and so I couldn't share some of these things with you that I wanted to. Now that I'm not a lawyer, I can. But I don't want you to think that I'm saying, go commit crimes or anything like that. Do not call me. Don't call me and say, Heidi, how does this actually work? Because I'm not going to tell you. If you are too dumb to figure it out based on this video, you're too dumb to be committing crimes to begin with, all right? Don't do it. It's not worth it, all right? So, let me tell you first a little bit of background about Jenna Brookes and the Jenna Brookes case so you can understand kind of where I'm coming from. Now, to begin with, I did over 3,000 clients in the 10 years that I was a lawyer, and very few did I not like. I liked almost all of them. And of the few that I didn't like, very rarely did I get such a good deal for that client that I just cringed, because it's my job to get a good deal, and I have pride, and that's what I like to do. But Jenna Brookes was one of those clients that just got too good of a deal, and had I not got this defense out of this case, I probably would have been real frustrated over the deal. So here's the facts of the case. Jenna Brookes was a drunk, spoiled woman, taunting her ex, essentially. And, of course, the cops came and picked her up, and she was kicking the windows of the cop car and, acting as a drunk, crazy woman does sometimes in the back of the cop car. And so as she pulled into the jail, there are video cameras and things like that. As you pull in, the big cement door comes up. And then, there's video cameras, and the cop car pulls in, and the cement comes down, and then they get you out. And so Jenna Brookes, as they pull in, she's kicking the cop windows, and just acting ridiculous. And so there's 3 officers there to get her out of the car. And as soon as they open the door, Jenna hauls off with her foot and just kicks this officer right in the jaw. Now, there's 3 officers here that are witnesses. The one that was kicked in the jaw and the 2 that just witnessed it. And there's videos from probably every angle that you can imagine, because we're coming into the jail. And it's like, okay, well, Jenna, I probably can get you some sort of decent deal here, but I don't know that I'm going to make these be able to go away. I don't know that any lawyer, with this kind of evidence against you, is going to be able to make these go away. But I might be able to make it not be a felony anymore, stay off your record, be good, stuff like that. But Jenna was just as unreasonable sober as she was drunk. And Jenna insisted that this case go to trial. Insisted. And so I'm thinking, well, what is it that I'm going to be able to do here? And so I thought about it long and hard, and how I was going to be able to attack this case. And the prosecutor, and to make matters worse, he was in a wheelchair, so we've got the sympathy going on too with the jury. He's wheeling all around the room as if it couldn't get much worse for me. And so I'm doing this trial, and the prosecutor, puts his officers up on the stand and says, Officer 1, you're trained, and you don't have anything against Miss Brookes, and, you're just here because you're this great citizen, and that's the whole reason you're a cop, right? And, of course, he sits on the stand and says, oh, yes, I'm the very best in the world, and, I would never do anything against Miss Brookes, and, I don't know her. I have nothing against her, and, I'm testifying fairly here, and she kicked me. You can clearly see she kicked me. And so prosecutor gets him off the stand, gets the next officer up on the stand, asks, what did you see? Comes in, and she hauls off and kicks officer number 1. All right, thank you. You can be gone. Next witness comes up, the third officer. That's what the prosecutor had, was 3 officers as witnesses for this trial. And third officer gets up, tells a story about how Jenna hauls off and kicks this cop right in the jaw as soon as they open the door. And now it's my turn. Okay, so what am I going to do here? I actually attacked this with less than probably 12 questions, and Jenna walked free. And I'm going to tell you how that happened. I got officer number 1 on the stand and had him sit down in the chair, the witness chair, and I said, you know, Mr. Officer, you just testified how bright you are and how trained you are and how educated you are, right? And oh yeah, I'm the best in the world, I'm the greatest, and I'm super cop, and you know, that's who I am. Okay, and you don't have nothing against Miss Brooks, no. You just testified to what you saw here, right? Yeah. Well, all right, you're a bright guy, right, Officer 1? Oh, yes, I just told you how bright I am, ma'am. Okay. Well, then I've got one simple yes or no question for you. Is it possible for you to know what was in Miss Brooks' mind at the time that she kicked the officer? Well, you know, you can tell it was obvious she was meaning to... Wait. You're a smart guy, Mr. Officer, I say. Mr. Officer, yes or no? Is there any possible way that you could know what Miss Brooks was thinking at the time that she kicked the officer in the jaw? Well, of course I couldn't be in her head, no. Gets off the stand all huffy and puffy. Next officer, we go through the same thing. You know, officer, you're right guy, you're trained, you're super cop, yes, you're RoboCop, whatever. And sit him down on the stand and do the same thing. Could you know what Miss Brooks was thinking? No. There's no possible way I could know what Miss Brooks was thinking, obviously. Thank you, officer, for being honest about that. Dismissed. Third officer. Officer, let's go through this together. He's super cop, yes. You right guy, yes. You can answer yes or no question, yes. Could you possibly know what was in Jenna Brooks's head at the time that she kicked the officer? Well, no, I couldn't. And then it was my turn. And so I put my client, Miss Brooks, up on the stand for just one question. Because if I asked more than one question, that would be opening the door and the prosecutor could ask her questions. And so I just needed, for closing argument, one simple question to be answered. And that was, Miss Brooks, did you mean to kick the officer in the jaw? And she answers, as she has this whole time, no, I didn't mean to kick the officer in the jaw. Okay, thank you, Miss Brooks. Dismissed. And so now it's closing. And it's my time that I actually can argue and educate the jury. And so what I do is I say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and I have, you know, my little whiteboard sitting up here. I'll, you know, imagine a little board that I can walk up to in my little suit. And I explain, I said, what we're going to talk about here is Criminal Law 101. And what we have today is something that's not a strict liability crime. And now, just so you guys understand, for strict liability crimes, this won't work. And I'll explain strict liability crimes to you after we're done talking about this at the end. But because this was actually a crime with the mental state, did you intend to kick the officer? I was able to make this argument in closing. And so I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to do Criminal Law 101. And I drew this little chart. And it had what's called mens rea on one side and actus rea on the other side. And now what that is the mental thought of the crime and the act of the crime. Right? And so I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, clearly we did the act. Miss Brooks is very guilty of kicking the officer. For this particular crime, the act is, did you kick the officer? We have testimony, we have everything you need to convict her of that. But ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's another piece to this case that you need to understand. And that is the mens rea. And that was, did Miss Brooks intend to kick the officer in the face? And based on what you've seen here, there's no possible way that you can find her guilty of that. You saw officer number 1 sit in the witness chair and tell you there's no possible way he could know what was in her head. Officer 2 and Officer 3 did the same thing. And then Miss Brooks sat in the chair and she told you she did not intend to kick the officer in the jaw. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's no way, based on the evidence that you saw here today, that you can convict Miss Brooks of assaulting that officer. So you gotta let her go home today. And you know what? Those crazy sons of bitches did. We hung it. We didn't get a total win. She did walk away that day and later. So, anyway, I always wanted to end a trial with a drum roll and a like rock stars. And if any of my trials should have ended that way, this was probably one of the ones that should have. And so I want you to help me out real quick before we get to strict liability. Give me a little drum roll, will ya? And so, what is a strict liability crime anyway? Because remember, I told you earlier that this type of defense would only work with a strict liability crime. Now, you could look that up on law.com, lawdictionary.com, thelawdictionary.com, mylawdictionary.com, lawdick.com. Oh, wait. That one is probably not out there yet. But if someone wants to start a lawdick.com, I've got plenty of material for that one. Come see me after we're done. So anyway, strict liability crime. What that is any crime that has a mental state involved. And that's most crimes. You know, assaults are going to have a mental state involved. Thefts are going to have a mental state involved. Trespasses are going to have a mental state involved. The one crime that mostly applies to, especially you guys in SELA, because I got a feeling you might drink and drive just a tiny bit, and that's DUI. So don't go trying this at home, especially for DUI. Trained professionals did these tricks here today. You could get hurt if you tried them on your own. Anyway, until next time, blog number 2, coming to you live, semi-live, quasi-live, from Perth, Western Australia. Talk to you soon.